A Wagga story with Brian Abbey, Jim Hanrahan. Let's go, Dad. Let's tell us Jim Hanrahan one, because I love this one.
I grew up from about 14 years of age knowing Jim Hanrahan. We went to the same school. He was a year behind me. And we always had a bit of a joke about a poem about a man called Hanrahan. It was called We'll All Be Ruined, said Hanrahan. And always had a bit of a gag with Jim about that. But Jim had, his father died when he was very young, and his mother and stepfather were both ailing. So Jim left school at 15, and he said to me, I want to go out and be a builder. I want to be a carpenter. So he went and became, he got an apprenticeship, and in his first year became Apprenticeship of the Year. Of course, that was Jim. And I lost sight of him for a little while, and then I came back and he was working for Dacey Constructions. And he was, at that stage, he was already fully he was a fully qualified carpenter, and he said he can't wait to become a clerk of works. Now I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I know if Jim went ahead to become a clerk of works, he would have become a clerk of works. And then I totally lost sight of him, and it was after the Darwin cyclone. I was moved back from Darwin to Canberra, and I visited Wagga. And who should I run into but Jim Hanrahan? And I said to Jim, Jim, I thought you'd gone to Queensland somewhere. He said, no, I've been to South Africa. And I said, well, what are you doing here now? And it was in Woden, and he said, I've just built the Wagga Plaza. And
Woden's in Canberra for those watching.
Woden.
So you ran into him in Queanbeyan when you went back. Wagga.
No.
You went to Wagga for a visit, ran into him there, but he had just finished building the Wagga Plaza.
Yeah.
Or you went to Wagga. I'm confused. You went to Wagga and saw him, right?
I went to Wagga to visit my family.
And ran into him there.
And ran into him at the Wagga Plaza.
The Wagga Plaza's not in Wagga. The Wagga Plaza's in Canberra. So you went to Wagga.
I'm sorry, Canberra. Canberra, that's right. You're exactly right, Canberra. The Wagga Plaza. But I ran into him at the Wagga Plaza.
Yep.
And I said, what are you doing here? I heard you are in Queensland somewhere working for Jennings. He said, oh no, I stopped working for Jennings years ago, and I've just come back from South Africa. And I said, well, what are you doing here now? He said, well, in the last year or two, I've built the Wagga Plaza. And the Wagga Plaza was a fantastically big shopping centre with a couple of big towers, and he's done all that. And I said, but Jim, this was early 70s. I said, but the Wagga Plaza cost something like $30 million. He said, oh, that's nothing. I've just finished the Jan Smuts International Airport, 400 million. And he had married one of the De Beers girls. And De Beers, of course, are fabulously wealthy diamond people. And I met this girl. She was very hard to understand. She was very, very, very Dutch accent, or Boer accent, if you like. And they had this massive, massive dog. It was the biggest, what do you call them? Anyway, it was the biggest dog I think I've ever seen. And fabulous story for Jim. And unfortunately, I've lost touch with him. I guess he's still alive. I hope he's doing well. And fantastic guy. Just out of nowhere, he's built the Jan Smuts International Airport from a kid of 15 who left school because his parents were unwell. Wow.
He built airports, shopping centres all around the world, didn't he?
I understand so, because they all had a particular flooring.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. Is remember we landed in Chiang Mai, and airport, and we looked at the floor, and it had the same floor as the Woden Plaza. I said, it's got the same floor as Woden. Maybe your mate built this one. And then Kiwana Shops here in Queensland on the Sunshine Coast has the same floor as Woden Plaza.
It may well have been Jim, but I haven't spoken to Jim for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think that, look, I came up with that theory myself that anywhere that has the same floor as Woden Plaza, it's a sort of a signature thing that's probably a mate, because not every mall has that floor, you know. But anyway, yeah, it's just something I came up with once I started seeing that exact floor, because you can't miss it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't miss it. It's speckly and
Probably better to say flooring than floor.
flooring, yeah.
Because floor is FLAW. And there weren't any of them in Jim's work.
No, the Woden Plaza, I mean, they've extended it and all that stuff today. But when we were kids, before they extended it, because I was going there in the late 70s, well, you know, mid 70s and late 70s. And obviously as I grew up as a teenager in the 80s, we were in there. That whole plaza, the car parks, the towers, everything, it's just phenomenal.
Just a side issue about Jim. As a sportsman, he was pretty good too. He was a member of the Wagga Lifesaving Club. It's a big beach, but it's a river beach. He was an excellent swimmer, a gun table tennis player, one of the best. He probably could have gone on and become a professional table tennis player. He also played squash, and he was fairly high level at that, but I don't think he represented anybody. But I don't think I ever saw him beaten at table tennis.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what? They do need what did you call it? Lifeguards at the Wagga Beach. People die at the Wagga Beach all the time.
Well, even I've saved people
Yeah.
there.
I actually, even in the Murrumbidgee River at Pine Island in Canberra, when I was in kindy, there were these two twins. One of those girls drowned at Pine Island on the weekend, and we obviously, and then the other twin disappeared from school after that, but one of them drowned. And then years later, when I was in my 20s, I was there with my friend John, and we actually watched a guy drown. You know, so, well, I mean, hang on. We turned away and weren't looking. 1 minute he was there, the next minute when we looked, he wasn't. And he's drowned. They've got a monument to him down on the beach there still today.
Well, Jim was a perfectionist. Everything he did, he strived to be the best at it he could be.
Yeah, right.
It was not necessarily the best anyone could be, but was the best he could be.
You know what, though? To build airports and malls, you've got to be good. Like, they can't just hire an idiot to do that. I mean,
No.
you know what? Did he build bridges as well? Because what you've got, you know the great big bridge here in Brisbane, the Gateway. They've got one that's almost a replica going from Nong Khai, Thailand to Burma or whatever, and it was built by the same people. Do you know if he's had anything to do with bridge building, or is that another mob?
No, I don't think he'd have been involved in bridges, but who's to know? Perhaps he was their overall supervisor.
Yeah, right. Because it is interesting that these foreign countries, they like they've used your friend to build airports and shopping malls around the world. They use Australian bridge builders around the world as well. And I think that bridge that was built there was gifted by the Australian government to the Thais as well. But I was just thinking of there's another thing that gets built. Oh, there's a guy at Mooloolaba. Sorry, this is unrelated to your friend. I'm sort of digressing a lot, but there's a guy that builds all the he built the what's that place called, Underwater World at Mooloolaba. You know, the seal tanks and the shark tanks and all that.
Yeah.
And he builds those aquariums all over the world.
Specialised operation.
Yeah, right. So just like Jim, is it Jim?
Yes.
Just like Jim, he's in his field. He's all over the world building all. So let's say you go to a water park or an animal aquatic place anywhere in Australia or the rest of the world is made by this guy in Mooloolaba, most likely. Especially the sort of refrigerated seal tanks and all that, as I understand it. Yeah. So it's, anyway, but it's not really
Like I
much
say,
to do with
it's a
your
long
mate.
time
But
since I've spoken to Jim. I guess he'd be dead by now, but who knows?
oh well.
I tried to look him up, but can't find him anywhere.
Oh, okay, that's a shame. Yeah, I'd like for like just as we close, I'd like for us to find a few of these guys. We must get in touch with the Gold Coast Titans, dude, and a few of these other guys.
Anyway, to finish off this video, we'll all be ruined, said Hanrahan.
See that.